for next year's poll amid intense lobbying by potential candidates.
Karibu sana, Your Excellency.
Ruto's public praise of National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi, who has declared interest in the 2032 presidency for his performance, has added a new twist to the succession politics.
I work with Mbadi with a lot of ease because he understands things fast. He is a sharp man. He understands politics. He knows how to navigate issues.
When you are exiting, this region must produce the next president of the Republic of Kenya. And we will give you the right people.
ODM insiders now argue the president's remarks amount to an endorsement of Mbadi's future bid, further strengthened by his close ties to late ODM party leader Raila Odinga, who backed his appointment, making him the first Luo to hold the Treasury docket. Ruto's Nyanza tour has also sparked fierce jostling within ODM, ahead of pre-coalition talks, with the Coast region rallying behind mining CS Hassan Joho.
Niko kweli na nia ya siku moja kuwa rais wa taifa la Kenya na Mungu ataniwezesha.
Lile la chini zaidi ni deputy president comes from ODM. Na kama wapwani tunasema we produce a son of the soil that can be able to be fit to be the deputy president of this country.
Lazima na sisi tumwambie rais, sisi tunakusupport, lakini na wewe lazima mara hii uweze kutukumbuka sisi.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki still leads the pack, with analysts warning that dropping him could cost Ruto crucial Mount Kenya East votes, including Embu, Meru and Tharaka Nithi, and risk losing the entire bloc.
Kindiki's job is safe. Ruto cannot take a gamble. If you give a Luo the Luyas say you were there before them, we supported you in 2022, how can you come and give a Luo? You give a Luo, Luos are up in arms. So you remain with Kindiki. Promise them 2032. We will support them. But Kindiki, you touch Kindiki, you antagonize the entire equation.
Also in contention are Kisii Governor Simba Arati and Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga, with Wanga facing integrity questions from the Auditor General and the Senate, a factor that could hurt her chances. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Right, the politics around the possible running mate for President William Ruto heading to the 2027 election appears to have been reignited. And that's a conversation we now want to have. Allow me to welcome onto the set Senator Dr. Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River County. Karibu sana. You missed a very nice discussion about the budget making process. But you're right on time for this politics. And it's something that many people, especially within UD, have tried to avoid this discussion. But it would appear it's the main discussion in ODM, a party that you're hoping to have a coalition with. And the jostling, even within ODM, is getting even hotter. The president, for the second time, heaping praise on John Mbadi. The first time he spoke about John Mbadi in such glorious words was during Raila Odinga's funeral. And he has so many experts, if I may call them that, in his government. He could be talking about them in the same way. But don't you think that the president is also communicating something as he keeps praising John Mbadi?
Okay, let me just say, first of all, that I'm very happy when I see ambition, various people, especially younger people, like people who want to come into leadership. It means that we are not dying as a nation, or if it's in Tana River, we are not dying as a county. It means there are people who want to come up and take positions of leadership. So ambition is a good thing. Ambition helps to grow the nation because it also brings in new ideas. So I am all for everybody and anybody saying they want to run. They want to run for president, they want to run for governor, senator, and so on. This is a beautiful thing. And this is what makes the world go round. But if you talk to me about the current deputy president, I will tell you we are firmly behind Professor Kithure Kindiki. And there should be no doubt The fact that President is praising Honorable Mbandi, the fact that he is happy with his performance as Treasury Secretary, does not mean that he wants him to be a Deputy President. And the fact that you're performing very well as a footballer does not mean that you can be elected as a Member of Parliament from your area. You could be a very famous radio presenter, but you will not be elected even as an MCA. So, yes, he's performing well according to the President but, in the Treasury, but that does not make him the same person who would perform well as a Deputy President. Let me say this. Deputy President is like a Deputy Governor. You know, the positions are comparable. You want a person that you rhyme with. You want a person that when you leave the office, you're sick, you've traveled, that person just carries on whatever it is that you are doing in that office. A person who shares a vision with you, a person who rhymes with you. You know, there's something in politics about naturally liking a person or naturally disliking a person, not because they can't perform or they can't do what you want them to do, but because you're not rhyming. And also you could be rhyming, you could be buddies, you could be friends, but I can't bring you too close to where I am because maybe if I travel, I don't trust you to sit in that position. So the deputy presidency and the deputy governorships, they have that kind of aside from performance, personality rhyming. Are you saying you cannot get that from ODM? I know you may be speaking as a member of UDA party, and of course you support Kithure Kindiki. Yes. Are you saying that the president cannot get what you're describing from ODM? You see, when you're talking about, it's not just performance and ability to deliver. It's also personal rhyming. Personal rhyming has everything to do with how long have we also stayed together, how have we struggled together, how have we done things together. There's a likelihood of me working with a person that we were in the trenches together than a person that we haven't rhymed together. So the deputy governorship, the deputy presidency has that aspect. Apart from competence, there's the aspect of personal rhyming, personal rhythm. And this personal rhythm is very, very evident with Professor Kindiki. And aside from that, we like him. As members of parliament, we like him. We feel he's approachable. He listens to us as senators. This was totally different in the previous deputy president, where even if you wanted something done quickly, you can't reach the president, it is difficult to get him. Of course, he had a preference for some of his fellows, but not for the rest of us. So let me just say that we are going to fight for Kindiki to stay as deputy president. And you dodged my question. Yes. That are you saying he cannot get that from ODM? He can't, because they were not in the fight together. You know, I've thought about personal rhythm. Where do you get personal rhythm from a person you have never worked with? Yes, you see, people are interested in that position within ODM, and probably it will be part of the biggest conversation starting tomorrow at the NDC. Who stands a better chance of, if at all, they get that position of number 2?
I think as it is, ODM is rightly in the right frame of mind to have a conversation on wanting to have that position of deputy president. So they are well within their rights as a party to be ambitious in that space. And of course, you've mentioned several candidates who are potential choices for that position, if that position was available. But step back a bit. Where does the president come from? He has a deputy, he rhymes with, just like Mheshimiwa Mungatana says. Why would you want to fix that when it is working? You'll unsettle a lot of things. For ODM, and more so the region where Mbadi and Gladys Wanga comes from, I think there's something very critical that the president has done that has never been seen in that region. It has been more about development projects, not just starting them, but also ensuring that at the end of the day is launched and commissioned them. And this past week, he was all over Luo Nyanza. He was in Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay. And in all those places, they're either very good ongoing road projects, or there are those that are complete, like the one in Rusinga, that is the one he launched. So essentially, the president has gotten into a space where the people from that region are not necessarily fixated with the deputy president position. They have embraced development, and that is where...
The people may not be interested, but the party is, and they're talking about it.
That is why I'm getting to it. So that is why, to the extent that I would give you a deputy president, it is also probably about other votes. But if the people are more engrossed and aligned towards development, which you are giving more than that specific position, then it may also be very difficult for you, if I give you an easy decision as a president, that the people are already carried along. They are coming without conditions. Their biggest condition is development, which they've not seen in a very long time. Then it's very easy for the president where he sits not to unsettle the structure as it is. And that's why I agree with what Herman Manyora said, that if you go that direction, you'll unsettle a lot. Because you go to Mbadi, then what does the ODM from Coast, where Joho comes from, say? And what does the other leaders who feel they are currently holding senior positions in ODM? So I think it's a conversation, listening to the president praising Mbadi, and I've heard him praise him 2-3 times, but I've also heard him have very, very flowery words for the deputy president currently.
Okay.
And therefore, from my understanding and reading of the politics around that space, I think ODM is raising the stakes for its members, but also for negotiation, so that when we sit down to discuss what we get as a party in this pact of UD and ODM, if we do not get this number 2, then we get something more substantial to compensate. So I think it's about more of raising stakes.
Okay.
Can
One person,
can I say
very
something
briefly,
about the costs and that position?
Yes.
Just very quickly, so that I give Mheshimiwa his time. It is very wrong to make this look like cost is pushing. It's wrong. It's not true. Look at the clip you have shown. Look at all the rallies that it is the same Mombasa members of parliament, same Mombasa people. Mombasa is not coast. Up country, they say, mimi naenda coast. And they mean they are going to Mombasa. Coast, my friend, starts from Lamu, Tana River, Malindi, Mombasa, Kilifi. It goes to Kwale. It goes all the way to Taita Taveta. But the upcountry people, they say, oh, mimi natoka Nairobi naenda coast.
You don't
but
feel
it's
the coast
going
people.
to Mombasa. Let me tell you, Mombasa is Mombasa. And all the people who are pushing that agenda are Mombasa people. Mombasa is not coast. The rest of us are saying firmly that we are supporting Kindiki. Kindiki, if anything, is minority like us. Okay. So there's nothing like Coast. Ati Coast is supporting. Coast is not supporting any person. We have no problem with any person having ambition, and we are all for that. But you cannot report that. Toto misreporting, saying Ati Coast is pushing for no. Right.
One person who doesn't have very flowery words when he describes the current deputy president, Professor Kithure Kindiki, is your party leader, or the leader of the party you currently support, the former deputy president. It would appear that even Rigathi Gachagua's fixation with the fact that his successor is currently in that position, that debate is very much alive, even from the United Opposition side, that whoever is deputizing William Ruto or whoever will be the running mate for William Ruto is still something of interest to you in the United Opposition. Why is that?
Idimori, very, very quickly, politics is a game of mathematics. And in terms of politics, you rely with the numbers. And therefore, both the United Opposition and the ruling are working for numbers. And this position of running mate also calculates how much you can get with dishing it out from this region or that or the other region. Because what you are looking for, a re-election is a re-election by numbers. And I am sure that whether Gachagua is jittery about his successor, his predecessor, I think he can be very comfortable when Kindiki is not the running mate in the coming election.
He would prefer that
in that particular running mate, he would be very sure that Mrima would be solid. and he can win it probably at 90 or 95%. With the Kindiki as the running mate, he still bring some jitters there, because he also has to use his command to also try to press with Ghana numbers to support his boss. Number two is that nationally. Number two is the only carrot that seems to be at a stake, because, as Manyora argued, it can be a tussle between Western and Nyanza. When the carrot is taken to Nyanza and not Western, then we may, in terms of calculating political arithmetics, you must be very sure that you are not going to bring Intago. And of course, if it is the head of state, you still need numbers from Western that still want to secure Nyanza, and therefore has to strike a balance. There can be an issue if the number two position can be taken to Nyanza and not Western. Then the Western side can also bring some antagony. Finally, in terms of the ODM demands, I'm sure that you put it as the highest target of demand, but they may get it or they may lose it. But what matters here is President's game plan, because he must also have assessed what we are doing, what we are analyzing here. And also he has his men who has also done those mathematics. And if we want to make his ground cool, I think the beauty is to retain Kindiki at where he is.
But that,
if he decides to...
It complicates your mathematics as a united opposition, that's what you're saying. If he retains Kindiki.
Number one is that what you cannot secure is 100% from mountain. With Kindiki as a running mate for Ruto, you must expect that there has some percentage that you are going to lose. But probably where that also the opposition will take that seat, will gather more. To replace the numbers they will lose.
Why do you think the president is talking about Mbadi in this way that he does? And this is not the first instance. Why do you think he finds it necessary to keep praising John Mbadi?
I think the reason why he's praising Mbadi is that, one, we know where Mbadi took over the treasury from. And one of the biggest challenges this government has had is communication, especially to the common man. And I think to that extent, Mbadi has done very well in communicating government positions around everything, be it National Infrastructure Fund, be it the finance bill. You look at the finance bill that eventually was passed last time, was literally the same that was there before, except that there were a lot of misinformation around several things that he was able to go to Bunge la Wananchi. So being a CS who is a bit of a politician as well, he demystified a lot of things and blocked things that were misinformation.
We were just talking about the budget process here, and we poked quite some holes into this. This is emanating from Treasury. It is John Mbadi's work.
Yes, but you see, I want you to look at it this way. John Mbadi is not just dealing with the budget. There is also the overall health of the economy. Remember, 2 years ago, the Kenya shilling was 168 to the dollar. Part of the reason why that happened was because we did not anticipate the bullet payment of the Eurobond that was borrowed in 2014. And when it crystallized, it messed the economy, it became very difficult. Now, we have another Eurobond coming out that was coming up in 2028. And that was going to start crystallizing next year with the dollar starting to weaken. We have had a very stable currency for now almost 2 years. That takes leadership. Yes, there are costs to it, but that Eurobond has already been reworked on. So that fear has been addressed, courtesy of the leadership in that space. But more importantly, it is more of communicating the position of government around some of these difficult things. Remember, Kenya was supposed to have been among the 6 countries that defaulted on debt. We have not defaulted. So, yes, we are wobbling on our public debt management and how we manage our budget, especially what I spoke about. If you read the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, the budget deficit, which would eventually translate into less borrowing, was supposed to reduce from 5% gradually. By year 5, it was supposed to be 3.3%. We are heading to year 5 and we are almost at 6. So there we've failed a bit. But what is a solution that Mbadi would throw your way? He will say, part of the reason why we are borrowing heavily, and I would want to see it in the next budget, is that we have to budget for a lot of infrastructure projects that are very key within the budget. Now we are moving some of those going forward through the National Infrastructure Fund, especially those ones that are commercially viable, to be off the budget so that redirect some of those resources towards the crucial spaces. But I think the point I wanted to mention about the president being happy to praise Mbadi is also beyond the communication of what the government is doing at the Treasury level. He understands his space. And I'm a finance person, I will tell you, you would want, there is one thing to understand your space, but also to communicate the same. Okay. And I think to that extent he's done very well, and he's taken the burden of explaining everything away from the president and into his space.
And, and even as you continue speaking, I can see Senator Dr. Mungatana agreeing with every statement you make. But when the president praised Mbadi, he said something curious, that he also understands politics. And yet we've always been talking about the necessity of a politician in cabinet, because the discussion was that we need technocrats in cabinet and not politicians. Why would the president find necessity of a political mind to head Treasury?
Let me tell you, unfortunately, some of the things that, and some of the discussions that informed even the constitution making were so heavily driven by NGOs. You see, and NGOs are the technocrats who went to professors and whatever, they went to big schools in outside the country, big degrees. When they are talking about we need experts, then who are the experts? It is them, you know? So that beat, there's a logic to it, yes, but that beat of saying technocrats are the solution to everything, I truly disagree with it. Because one thing I would add for Mbadi, and I'm talking about Mbadi because he represents that side of both technocrat and politician, okay? A technocrat will apply government policy without a heart. They will just say, we need to cut the numbers in the government payroll. So these ones will go. And they will just implement. A politician would say, hey, what is this going to do to us? Let me stagger it. Or let's use the fast in, fast out rule. Let's do something. Let's arrange a package. Let's make it softer. A politician will always have a heart because they know the power is with the people. That is the combination that Mbadi brings. I'll give you an example. He is the first minister of Treasury, in charge of the Treasury, who came to Tana River County. And my friend, when he came to launch some programs there, one of them being a bridge. And one of the things he said is that we must get away from this idea that some parts of the country do not deserve the amount of attention and money that other parts are receiving. How can it be that a child in Tana River is eaten by a crocodile because he's crossing the river going to school and it's only 100 million shillings? I am going to find this money and make sure that this project is completed on time. That statement that in some parts of this country there is total discrimination as opposed to this other side. And he's sitting at the Treasury and he can see the figures. That statement touched not just Tana River, but across the nation. Because we know what has been happening. We know how the road networks have been allocated. We know how some of these people who are in charge of, sitting in the committee of budget, what they were doing, how their constituencies were getting everything, and some of our constituencies were getting nothing. How our counties were being strangled while their counties are getting everything. We know, and this has been the process since independence. So I think every time, and I'll give you another example, every time we had Mutahi Kagwe come to our committee the other day. He was coming to ask for approval of regulations in the Department of Agriculture that he had brought. Mutahi comes and sits there, okay? We have had other CSs, but the explanations he's giving, and you know, we treat him also as a colleague. You know, we've been in parliament with him before, and he sits and explains things in a way that we all understand. And we tell him, no, here is wrong. He says, okay, I concede this one will, this one is right, this one. We talk at the same level. When you are living there, you feel you're talking to someone who is making sense. Opio and I comes to the Senate Energy Committee. I sit there also. And we are asking him questions. And you know, when you are poking him and asking him, and he understands where you are coming from.
Yet he's not receiving as much praise as his colleague.
From the
president.
The president, he has his own.
It's the reason. My question is why? Why so much praise?
Okay, let me tell you something. Presidency is treasury and security. Treasury and security. So he may interact with all other areas, but treasury is on a daily.
Yes.
So that's why maybe he'll praise Mbandi more. But I'm telling you, as a committee now, when you find members who have been donated from the legislature sitting as our experts or as our cabinet, they do very well. And I'm very happy if in the next general elections we'll get at least 50% donated from our side.
When Agakuya, you've worked closely at some point with President William Ruto, and you understand when this president praises anyone, it's a kind of praise that probably he gave Professor Kithure Kindiki right before the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. Are we overreading these statements by the president about John Mbadi?
What I would like to say is that the explanation given by both the panelists are quite in order. That the head of state must be very close, because what is the control pillar of the nation? It is finance, it is funding, and therefore the contacts with the body is almost daily. Because of the nature of the offices.
They are rhyming, the way Mungatana was saying.
Of course, that is one. And therefore, in one way or the other is that Badim has proven that he's a master in his job, and he's doing, through his post, he's doing well. And therefore, the praise he's getting cannot be necessarily a praise of a succession, but a praise of the job he's doing currently. And that, to me, in any case that the head of state might be having an idea of a succession from Western Nyanza region, probably he's giving some indication that in case we arrive to some point, this man can be somebody. That can be something he's communicating from. But I am sure this is not in terms of arrangement of the election we are heading to. But in fact, in what future plan, he is communicating that here we have a man, and also as a community, start thinking about him. Because note that, in fact, the head of state, because I'm sure that I don't think that there is a possibility of changing the constitution to allow him more than one term. And if it is one term, if he can be successfully secure it, then it tells you there is a succession after that. And probably he's looking to the, what we call the plans of after his departure.
All right. It's interesting what the president says, especially when it comes to debates around what is happening in the Nyanza region vis-a-vis Western Kenya. And one of you mentioned that, that it could ignite a debate between Western Kenya and I want us to move to that discussion, because with the anticipated ODM NDC tomorrow, it looks more and more like the deciding factor when it comes to ODM's future. That a lot of the leaders who are set to be stripped of their leadership positions appear to be coming from one region. And that debate has come up ahead of the NDC. A lot of leaders from Western Kenya say Sifuna is from Western Kenya, Osotsi is from Western Kenya, Caleb Amisi is from Western Kenya. He was stripped of his parliamentary committee role, and Osotsi could be stripped of his deputy party leader role, and SG Sifuna the same. Do you think this is the end of Western Kenya's involvement in ODM starting tomorrow's NDC?
I think not necessarily. From the way I see it, you realize that Western Kenya has also some very interesting dynamics. If you go to Bungoma County, for example, UDA, even in the last election while Raila was there, did way better than ODM.
Yes.
If you go to Kakamega, there are parts of Kakamega that were more leaning towards UDA, especially towards Malava, but also there are parts that stuck to ODM. But then when you come to Vihiga, it's a different ballgame. Busia, yeah, Busia, again, a mixed bag. So it may not necessarily move away from ODM. You go to Busia, for example, where Otuoma is and where the other leaders are, to a very large extent, they're still aligned, and the acting SG is from that region. And therefore, yes, it will dent ODM in Western Kenya, but depending on who the replacements are, they may still be in that space. But generally, ODM is not what it was when Honorable Raila existed. Things are likely to change. Even in Luo land, where I come from, in Luo Nyanza, the fortunes of ODM are not very, very strong. That's why they need zoning. And that is why part of the conversation they're having with the president is that, yes, we are going to support you because you brought development in this region, but we also need some safeguards. You remember when we had the by-election in Kasipul, UDA, where he comes from, did not field a candidate because the president said, no, these are our partners, we're working together, so we must have some working arrangement that avoids self-cannibalism.
All right.
So they may have their own issues within their space, but I foresee tomorrow, looking at the factions within ODM, the people who have moved away from what I would call maybe the mainstream under the leadership of Honorable Dr. Buru are few. There are probably less than 10 members of parliament. And if you have a formation where you have about 100 people and less than 10 exit, I would not even call it a faction. But of course, they are very notable figures, and therefore they may, in the interim, have some persuasive power. But the reality also is, you listen to what Honorable Orengo went through when he went to a function where the president was. He was struggling to get heard. He's lost all the MCS in Siaya County. He has less than 2 or 3 of them on his side. He can actually be impeached today if they wanted to. That is how bad that ground is. And I would tell you, probably the people went ahead of the leaders. And that's why the president is very, very feeling okay in Luo Nyanza and is very confident and comfortable going back because he has the people behind him. And why? Because he sold a development agenda and things that have been done.
What do you think will be the main agenda at tomorrow's NDC? The NDC will be held at Jamhuri Park in Nairobi. There's a Linda Mwananchi that's hoping to have another event at Jacaranda grounds. But the agenda of this NDC has not been made public. We're just anticipating that they may talk about these leadership positions. But what do you think will be the main discussion?
I think the main thing would be to affirm the position of the party leader, that is Dr. Buru. There's been a lot of hushed conversation that he is not properly seated in that position. So I foresee him being steadied in that position, and of course being given the green light to negotiate with the president on an election arrangement that has a power of the overall membership of the party. I think those two are very key, so that whenever he engages or meets the president on how to work together towards 2027 election.
An official goodbye to Sifuna?
It could be a way through which Sifuna may or may not be replaced, because I don't think the agenda of his replacement has been placed on the table. But they could easily also say, we are done with you, because there's already an acting SG in Catherine. If the NDC then decides to confirm her in that position, then technically that will be the exit of Sifuna out of that space. And that would also mean a lot of things shift in that space.
Right. And of course, even from a UDN perspective, you'll be watching a lot of what is happening with ODM in anticipation of the coalition that you're working on. You've seen the kind of discussions and people demanding within ODM to become the top leaders so that they can negotiate for the #2 position. How consequential do you think this NDC will be ahead of your coalition building?
Okay, for me, the one thing that I know from experience, these will be the most democratic elections and open elections that ODM has ever had. Not for any other reason, but for the reason that whenever a prominent personality exits from a political party, space is created for dissent, space is created for more open expression of opinions. Space is created when there's a domineering personality within a political party, then space is squeezed. So exit of the Right Honorable Raila created that space. Now, unfortunately, some people think that when we disagree, you need to leave the family. You don't need to. You can, put your point in a very strong way and then go for the vote. If the vote accepts you, fine. If the vote rejects you, then you stay in the family. I don't know why people always, they take politics like it's a matter of life and death. It is not. You're just offering yourself for leadership. I always tell people, you can never threaten me or tell me anything about, next time we will take you out. I have been out, I've been in. It's nothing new. I mean, you remain you. And don't you ever forget that, whether you're in politics or outside position, you're still a father. You're still Dr. Danson Ngatana. You're still a lawyer. You're just another guy. You go to the gym. You play your basketball. What's the big deal about this thing? If you see yourself as able to offer leadership, present yourself. If the people say no, then just work with the guy who has been elected. And I think that should be if I was to talk as an outsider and as an old person in this space of politics, I would just say, go in there, participate, and make your point be known. If you're not persuading other people, then just move with the family. If the family thinks, let us go and settle in Kitale instead of settling in Mombasa, don't say, I'm not going to go, I'll go to Kiambu. I mean, and the whole family is saying, we buy land, we go and settle elsewhere. You don't just break out. So from my thinking is that this will be one of the most free elections that is going to take place if they'll have elections, which I think is one of the agenda that will be there. And therefore, whoever comes to negotiate with UDA would be a partner that has mandate, because that is critical. And for me, I don't know, I hear some other people want to make another meeting outside to go and say they are the real people. You really look bad. I mean, why don't you attend, make your points known? You may or may not convince people. You may even force a negotiation. Who knows? Your presence there, because what I can tell you in politics, when you are there, people don't criticize you. They tend to be a bit mild. When you are not there, is when they will finish you. So it's a family. Just be there. I mean,
it's easier said than done.
You remember during even Moi's time, Kibaki's time, and even Uhuru's time, before Raila was even joined in those arrangements, whenever the president would go to even what he says is his base, he would be there. And he's in opposition. I think that wisdom people should learn. Even if you're saying, nigenda pale pengine, it's not my ground, just go. But this thing of saying, I'll go and have an industry in the what...
The history of NDCs and political parties in Kenya has been well documented. Kisirani Kasarani. We remember that with KANU. The men in black are still at Kasarani also, with the ODM party as well. Perhaps this is one of the most anticipated NDCs of a big political party that's probably, as you say, doesn't have a domineering figure in there. Do you expect more chaos than we've previously seen?
Tomorrow's ODM NDC does not look to be chaotic. And probably the reason why is that this is an NDC for confirming, not confirming every position. If it be a confirmation, it's a confirmation of 3 positions. One is the party leader position, and probably if there will be changes of Secretary General and the newly created for the deputy leader, Winnie. So probably there are 3 positions. And since there is no opposers to those positions, I don't see an element of chaotic in that particular NDC. However, the current Secretary General, today there is a ruling from tribunal. That's another case which was filed by one member for ODM. So we also need to see the results of the ruling of that tribunal verdict. It may also make some slight change in tomorrow's NDC. Probably what I would say is that because I'm not a member of the ODM fraternity, but as a national leader, what I would say is that there is importance of sobriety and decorum, and there's no need of turning back to those early days of months in black, Kasarani, Kisarani. And I remember that those old days during delegate systems, but tomorrow there's no matter to do with the delegate election. Tomorrow is just matter to do with common. And that's why, to my position, I feel that it doesn't seem to be so chaotic. It could be chaotic if the other team is saying we shall be there, and already they have mobilized themselves for a contest. If that contest is what we are expecting tomorrow, that I can tell you.
If at all the Sifuna team would show up for this.
Of course. That's when I can tell you that, yes, it can be somehow chaotic.
All right.
But what I am overseeing ahead after tomorrow is that if the decision of NDC is that the current SG should quit and be replaced, then automatically tells you that that team will not count itself in future in that particular party. And most likely what you do is you look for an entity of their own and start negotiating too, either from the other side. And if you have seen Sifuna's writing, is that he feels that he's comfortable with the other side of opposition. So I think most likely that is the direction he will take. Or else you also find that somebody still will move to court after tomorrow's NDC. Either could be on the floor, but let us hope for the best.
All right. And this is a much anticipated National Delegates Convention of the ODM party. It's perhaps one of the biggest parties of our time. Definitely a party that has marked 20 years anniversary. So definitely all eyes will be on what will be happening at the Jamhuri Park grounds tomorrow. I think one of the front pages are talking about one thing that could be a big discussion there is Winnie Odinga, who, according to ODM members from Nairobi, they want her to be the 4th deputy party leader of ODM. All right. As we come to the end of the show, there's one thing, and this has been the biggest discussion that I'd want you to comment as you make your final comments on. It is vaguely captured in the headline on the People Daily today, why Ruto is losing the silent majority. But if you read the story, which is on page 3, it talks about the kind of exchanges that the president has been having, especially in his tour of Western Kenya and part of the Nyanza region, and the kind of exchanges he was having with the leaders of the opposition, personal attacks. And there are concerns by Kenyans that the level of political discourse has gone so low that we've lost sight of what we should be talking about when it comes to politics. Bonomola, as you make your final comments, do you agree that the silent majority, it's not just William Ruto, that the entire political class, people are watching them and wondering, What exactly are you talking about?
I think I would look at it in two fronts. Yes, the common Kenyan says the level of personal attacks in the political space is unbecoming, and I think it's something that the leaders for both sides need to check. But again, where did it all begin? I think the president has been very quiet for far too long. There's been too much personal attacks on him for almost 2 years plus. He's avoided responding. In fact, he's more of embraced some of those things just to try and let them die off. But I think he felt obliged to respond. And I think he used the analogy of 99% to talk development and 1% to respond. I think he's responded enough. If I was him or if I was his advisor, I would say, imetosha, let's get back to issues. And for both sides, let's treat Kenyans to debates and conversations around issues of the economy, issues of policy, what is it that you want to do differently without resorting to the personality space. And I think that cuts across, and leaders need to have that because that is what the Kenyan people expect. But similarly, we have to also ask ourselves as a society, what kind of a political hygiene are we expecting from our leaders? And it also comes to us. Even in our own conversations, you hear leaders where they're not even attacking anyone, but the language they use to personify some of the things they speak in community are things you not want to listen to in front of your children. And therefore, politicians generally, I know there are ways through which you try to put words across. Let's be mindful around that space. But as I close, I would also want to weigh in on where we are headed as a country. We have elections coming up next year. It's important that we don't lose focus on the key drivers of our economy. As an expert on matters governance, we need to ensure that this country and this economy continues to go in the right direction. We need to look at what happens in the global space. The conflict between Israel and Iran, together with the US, has a tremendous effect on not just this country, but this region. And therefore, we need to be very, very careful how we manage that space. We need to spend enough time thinking through where the opportunities for us to take advantage of for the purpose of building this economy. We need to take advantage of that. But more importantly, the Kenyan man who is a taxpayer is also very heavily overburdened. We need to think through how is it that we can lessen the burden, either through the next finance bill for the leaders who are here, or rather the next budget, ensure that issues towards reducing the tax bracket for pay-as you earn are addressed, and also some of those issues in those spaces. Otherwise, to thank you and the TV47 team for the invite to have a conversation with Kenyans.
Thank you so much, Obanomolo. Dr. Mongetana, yes, do you believe, according to this headline, that the silent majority of Kenyans are just watching politicians and wondering, what is this? We've talked about the exchanges. I know last week we talked about that. But the level of political discourse, 16 months to the election.
Okay, for me, I'll tell you that if you go to a political rally, a lot is discussed, and I have been in several with the president. There's so much that he lays down. Media decides to pick what is exciting to the people, what will sell, what would, I mean, if you look at the development tours he has had in the Western, oh, the president, go to the internet if you want to watch live, and you will see the issues he has discussed, the things he has said, the plans he has talked to the people and all that. But then there's this bit, the 1% that is responding to some people, then that becomes the news because it's exciting. You know, when you tell people I've opened this road and what, it's boring. People that's not politics. The ODM many years ago would say, come and take your development away. That's what they were doing when we were in Kibaki's side and fighting these people for the second round. And we will come out and say, oh, we built this infrastructure and whatever. They'll tell you, no, In fact, that's our money. What did you want us to, what did you expect us to get? And it became a very bad campaign against us. Why? Because, again, the president never moved out to go and own the development. What President Ruto is doing, he's going out to own those efforts that he's making. And he's able to tell the people, look, this is how it was, this is how it is now. So he talks a lot of development, but there's that one bit when he, as he says, 1%, when he's answering, that's what makes, the crowds excited, the voters excited. So when you say the silent majority are losing, he's losing silent majority, that's a misleading. That silent majority never votes. Do you know? Majority of those people who are gentlemen, nini.
And you think it's because of the level of discourse that they are seeing? No,
even if you don't have any discourse, they will not come to line up. Mheshimiwa Gakuya can tell you, the people, the voters here in Nairobi, it's not gentlemen in suits. They don't go out. In fact, some of these people just even travel outside the country. But they are the first ones to call to radio stations. They are the first ones who are writing, I know my voters also. I know it is the women who are in the rural sector who go to the shop, the market, they carry their things. And there are many other people who are great in making noise. They don't have a voter's card. They don't, and they are just there, but they make a lot of noise as if they are the ones who determine who becomes MP, who becomes senator, who becomes governor, who becomes... So this reporting, I think the reporting aspect, the people, even the guys who are taking the news, they want to report something that is relevant to those voters. Okay. But I want to say this, that what the bishops are saying in the religious leaders is toned down. And I think going forward, it is good to tone down. For me, I think, let us be called boring, all of us. But when you think you can stand in church and talk badly against me, and then the pastors behind there are clapping for you, and because they are tickled by what you are saying, attacking my body shape, my friend, if you remove a knife, I'll remove a knife. Because we are in a contest. And it doesn't matter if you cut me here, whether I'm president, whether I'm governor, whether I'm senator, or whatever. If you cut me, it's blood that will come out. At the end, I'm a human being. So you can take it only so far. I can keep quiet and take in my blows because I'm a politician, but you can take in so far. If you keep on cutting me, I will cut back. But I agree that what the religion does and what people want are ideas and alternative ideas, and then they vote.
All right. Yeah. Finally, Bwana Gakuya, are you worried about this silent majority? Your party leader was very excited, saying that finally we have the president in a corner. That is where we want him. Do you really feel that is the kind of discourse we should be having 16 months to election?
Idimuli, it is important for every single Kenyan to have a peaceful transitions, and every single election is a transition. We require to have very encouraging speeches to public, so that public can have confidence that as much as we are moving to an election, we are not going to move to a brutality election or a chaotic election. And therefore, both those who are on the opposition and in the ruling, all of us, we have a country to protect. And what we must do is to raise our bars in terms of what we release to the public. We should be having a measurable talks that can build this nation, because tomorrow we need it. And we have an experience of 2007 elections that brought this country almost to down. And we could not wish to this country to get back there. So I think as we are nearing to election, I think the communication, the speeches to the people, let be encouraging speeches that can give Kenyans hope and confidence that where we are heading, even after election, there still be a country. Right. And I think that the route we should take. Finally, let me say, who should also take the mantle at his heart is the head of state, because today he's a symbol of authority, he's a symbol of power, he's a symbol of unity. And let him bring the whole nation close so that no single corner or region can feel silence. Politicians, you can be somehow on a jittering battles, but allow the public not to take that note.
Yes.
Let the public take what is good and release what is good to the public. And even though somebody has hit you too much, I think there is also a sober language to use. as I understand.
On the front page of the People Daily today, they say why Ruto is losing the silent majority. But I think this silent majority is just looking at the entire political class and wondering, okay, what exactly are we talking about in as far as politics? 16 months to election. That's just one of the headlines today. The Star, Kioni signals Uhuru Rigathi 2027 power plan against Ruto. I don't know much about that. NSC blue chip firms share 200 billion shillings on Iran war. That's a Business Daily. We have one more, I think that's the Star, the Daily. Kampuni za mafuta zaonywa ni ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, wale ambao wanahodhi mafuta. And caught flat-footed again, that's the bodies found in Kericho. The same story also on the front pages of both the Daily Nation and the Standard. These are the big discussions, of course, anticipation of the NDC, ODM NDC tomorrow, also a big discussion as well. Thank you so much to my panelists this morning. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, Senator Dr. Danson Mungatana, who's a Senator Tana River County, and FCPA Hesbon Omolo, a governance expert. These gentlemen have been our panelists this morning. Asanteni sana for your time at TV47. After the break, matters health, eye health to be precise. Anodida will be having that conversation with an expert here in studio. My name is Fred Indemuli. Have a good morning.